Ahoy, Comic Art Heroes, it's your boy Stingray back in the Art Cove, here to talk to you today about my adventures in Charlotte, North Carolina this past weekend at HeroesCon 2026. This is a show that I've been going to since 2014. It's one of my absolute favorites, and the reason for that is because it's two things. Number one, it's a great comic show. If you like comic books, you're going to love it because you can buy new comics, you can buy old comics, you can buy graded comics, you can buy trade paperbacks and hardcover collections. There's always at least a few vendors that have like omnibuses and all of that good stuff. You can get comics graded on site with CGC if that's a thing that you're into. And you can meet all, well, maybe not all, but many of your favorite comic creators, both writers and artists, because the show floor at Heroes is pretty friggin' huge. And the back half of it, an entire half of the show floor, it is Artists Alley. It's dedicated space for the creators of comics who you can go and meet, you can have a chat with, and you can get them to sign your comics or get pre-show commissions from them, or maybe even get them to do a sketch for you at the show. There are people that are cosplaying, but there's no cosplay contests. They don't have any celebrities there, so there aren't actors and actresses, you know, from film and TV. There's no voice actors or that kind of thing. It is a comic book show first and foremost, always has been, I assume always will be. The other reason that I like Heroes so much is because it's also a great art show. All of the comic artists that show up there typically bring portfolios with them. They're sketching, they're drawing all weekend. Like I said, you can get pre-show commissions, you can get sketches at the show. It's really fantastic. On Friday, every year at Heroes in the evening after the show, if you go across the street to the west and into the ballroom, they have a drink and draw session, a really big drink and draw session. And you can go in and draw on a little a drink coaster here. Here's a HeroesCon drink coaster here. This is one that I got from my pal Matt Sardo. I have a Sardo original. How cool is that? But you get one of these and you can draw on it. And you can get drawings on coasters like that from some of your favorite comic artists. And some of them will do bigger stuff. Some of them donate other art on just regular paper. Or I saw even like a skateboard what do they call them? A deck, I think, at the drink and draw this year. So it's all for charity. It's run by Team Cul-de-sac, as it mentions on the back here. It's just a good cause, and it's a good time to just kind of hang out. I went to the drink and draw for a little bit on Friday night, and I got to see Jared Cullum, who is doing the Usagi 1984 book right now. He was standing off to one side with a whole setup with his paints and brushes and like a travel easel, I guess. I'm not even sure what you would call that. But he was standing off to one side of the ballroom watching the drink and draw happen and painting the scene live. It was really cool to see. I wish I had gotten some photos of it, but it was pretty cool. The other cool art related thing that they do is on Saturday nights at Heroes, same thing, after the show across the street in the ballroom at the Westin, they have their annual art auction. The art auction is great. The artists that attend the show typically do art and then they donate it. And all of the money from the auction goes back into the show for like the next year. Now, what's really cool is they have a stage set up on the show floor at Heroes where you can actually watch people making the art that goes into the auction. More than once, a couple of years ago, I sat down and watched Scotty Young do he did a dual piece, right? He did two large pieces. I don't know how big they were, but they had to be at least this wide. He did one that was the Spot, and the other one was Miles Morales with a fist from the Spot coming out of a little Spot portal and punching him. And the cool thing about it is, you know, it's one of those things like if you got that those pieces, you could put them this way, you could put them that way, you could put them on top of each other, like you could, you know, deploy them however you thought appropriate if you could find walls with enough space. But I got to watch Scotty paint those. And it's, you know, it's a really a fun part of Heroes because, you know, the convention floor is this hard concrete and man, it's killer on the feet, I have to say. Walking around in there all day, it's nice to take a break and go just kick back and watch somebody do art. This year, I got to watch Brian Stelfreeze paint a piece that he did for the auction for a little bit. Last year, I saw two artists working on a jam piece. Monty Keene and Jonathan Marks Baravecchia did this awesome Venom and Spider-Man piece. And I got to see them working on it in tandem, like simultaneously. So Jonathan was kind of hunched down painting and Monty was over top of him like this, like leaning over. You know, Jonathan's head would be like right here. And Monty was drawing on the piece. And that was really exciting to see because those guys are both cool guys. I got to talk to them a little bit. I got to see them drawing live, which was all drawing and painting live, which is really awesome. And that piece was so cool that when I saw it, I was like, I'm taking that one home with me. And I did end up winning it. So that was super exciting. I would say if you've never been to HeroesCon and you go to conventions, like it's worth checking out. People travel from all over to go there because it's just such a great show. It's a good time. It's a great hangout show. You can just go meet up with a bunch of people that you know and just even if you don't buy anything all weekend, though it's really hard to get away without buying anything, you can just hang out with your friends and enjoy the show and just live the experience. So it's a great time. And I would like to share with you some of the highlights of my show from this weekend because there were quite a few. Kicking things off on Thursday, I got in on Thursday afternoon. Thursday evening, I went to a surprise film showing put on by Felix of Felix Comic Art. Now, Felix has been doing these for a couple of years now. This was my first time attending. You have to RSVP to get in ahead of time. And, you know, as I was going into the theater, my name was crossed off of the list. So they made sure that you were on the list to get in. And we didn't know what the movie was going to be until we got there. And it turned out to be the classic 1988 action, but what is it? A buddy action comedy, not buddy cop, because only one of the guys is a cop, but a buddy action comedy, Midnight Run, starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin in the only role I know him from now, other than Beethoven. But I had never seen Midnight Run before, and it was actually highly entertaining. I had a lot of fun with it. But it helped that I was in a packed theater full of comic book nerds who were very receptive and just, they were a great audience. They laughed at the right time. They were like, yeah, at the right time. It was a lot of fun. It was really, really a good time. So Felix, thank you for putting that on. It was really fun. And I look forward to seeing what movie you decide to show next year. Now, while I was at the movie, I ended up sitting with a group of guys who I had just met earlier that day. I was, in fact, joining my friend Matt Sardo for dinner, and he was going to join this group, and they had a reservation at a restaurant, and there was a little bit of a mix-up there and whatever. And so Matt and myself, and we were also with Tom McDonald, we decided that we were all hangry. We didn't want to wait for the issue with the reservation to get resolved, so we kind of detoured and went somewhere else for dinner. Now, when I got to the movie later that night, I saw one of the guys that I had met that I was going to have dinner with, and he came over to me and was like, hey man, how's it going? You know, he didn't remember my name, so he asked me and we just started talking. And then I didn't know anybody else there. So I was like, hey, is it cool if I sit with you guys in the theater? And they said yes. So that was Tyler and Dustin of the Good Buddy Comics podcast, who I got to meet on Thursday evening. And we talked a bit before the movie, we talked a bit after the movie, and I ended up running into them multiple times throughout the weekend at the show. It turns out that they are big fans of Jamie Jones, who I bought this awesome Spacow hat from this weekend. They are fans of Scotty Young. They are the founders of the Scotty Young Appreciation Society, or I don't remember the actual name, but they're big time fans of Scotty. They were just really super friendly, super awesome to talk to. We had a great time at the movie. I know for Tyler, at least, it was his first time seeing Midnight Run as well. And both of us were laughing through most of the film, like big, hearty laughter out loud, you know, kind of really, you could tell that we were both very entertained. So it was really cool getting to meet the two of them. I watched an episode of their podcast that they put on. They did their HeroesCon recap on Thursday evening. So that's out there if you want to see, or if you want to hear more about how HeroesCon went from their perspective, go check that out. They're good dudes, and it was really enjoyable getting to meet them. And while we were at the movie, the two of them were on my right side. They had another friend with them, a guy named Seth, who I sat next to also. I introduced myself to him and he said, oh yeah, I know who you are. I watch your videos. And I was like, oh, you know, and then he told me that he even framed a piece of his art after watching my framing video. And I was like, oh, wow, really? How did it turn out? And he said, it turned out great. It was easy and he had a great time doing it and it looks good. That felt really good. I felt like the Grinch in that moment when his heart grew 3 sizes that day. You know, sometimes I enjoy making these videos, but sometimes actually doing the work and sitting down and hitting record and putting time in to edit the videos afterward, it's hard to find the motivation sometimes. But when I hear stuff like that, it revitalizes my need to keep doing this. And it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something good with this forum that I have. So I don't know. It's a silly thing, but it was really nice to hear that somebody had, utilized my framing video. He's not the first person to tell me that, but the fact that I just randomly ended up sitting next to somebody who had watched the framing video and done something practical with the information. On Friday, I was wearing my drone shirt and I got to meet Jesse Lonergan. I walked up to say hi to him and he looks up and saw my shirt and he's like, I heard about you. I was like, oh really? He goes, yeah, somebody told me there was a guy wearing a drone shirt. And I said, oh, well, I'm the only one I've seen, so I don't know. Getting to meet Jesse was awesome. I talked to him for a little bit. We talked about Drome, told him it was my favorite book from last year. We talked about the fact that it's super out of print, so much so that Jesse doesn't even have any copies of it. So he told me that he's been told there should be some new copies out next month. Hopefully that's true, because with 3 Eisner nominations, you'd think that the printer, the publisher would be a little bit motivated to get those out into the world. But hopefully those will come out soon, because I ended up giving my copy away to somebody this weekend, because that's how strongly I feel about getting people to read that book. And I'll just buy myself a new copy when the new prints come out. On Friday, it was still Friday. On Friday, Matt Sardo, the founder of IC3, did the first ever Comic Art Fans Indie Comics Tour. He basically picked several indie creators that were there at HeroesCon, and he gathered a group of people together and took them on a tour and walked us around and introduced us to the creators, had them tell us a little bit about their comics, a little bit about themselves. Matt even put together this little zine with a cover by Jamie Jones. And it's a cool book that talks about, indie friends, and it talks about some of the people that we visited. There's some art in here. There's some from Chris Anderson. Here is the original diss track commission by Vero Stewart for my friend Tyler T that led to the Stingray Meets Tyler commission that happened last year. Here's the class of 2026 indie creators at Heroes 2026. And just some more art and just a bunch of intros to some of the folks that were there, some of the indie creators, with an ad for IC3 in Jacksonville and Providence in July and September, respectively. So that was a good time. We walked around and I met indie creators that I wasn't familiar with, that I had not met before. So kudos to Matt Sardo for putting together a really interesting side event at Heroes. I hope that you continue to do it in the future years, and I'm looking forward to hanging out and doing the next one. Saturday was a really good day. A few things happened on Saturday that were good. I went to Rob Rush's little comic art gathering on Saturday afternoon. A bunch of people, mostly CAF people, showed up there, but some of the Japanese artists that had come to the show this year, they showed up there with their agent Yoshi. Bill was there. Carl Choi was there. A bunch of collectors, and I got to hang out with everybody. We just got to hang out. Rob puts on a good spread. We got to hang out and eat and drink and be merry and look at art. There were so many portfolios strewn out on the tables and busted open so that people could share art. I had a couple of mine there that I cracked open. My friend Compson was there. I got to see some of his art. Rob has some really crazy stuff in his collection, and he has some beautifully framed pieces up on the wall in the foyer and in the office. It was just a really, really great time. Him and his wife, Joe, are amazing, amazing hosts. So thanks, Rob and Joe, for putting that on once again. It's always a highlight of Heroes to come hang out with you guys and to see everybody at your place. But earlier in the day, something really kind of special happened on that Saturday. Tyler and George Hodge were on a panel about comic art collecting. Really good panel. They had some nice things to say, some great stories and anecdotes. But after the panel, I left the room. I was going to go talk to Tyler about something, and I go outside, and he is talking to somebody, some random dude that I didn't recognize, that I didn't know. They're standing there talking, and Tyler had his portfolio open, showing the guy some art. And they're talking, and at one point, I hear the guy say something, and then da-da-da-da, and then I collect rhino art. And at that point, up to that point, I had not been a part of the conversation. I was kind of standing a couple steps back. I was close enough to let Tyler know that I was there, and I'm like, hey, waiting for you. But I tried to remain respectful and not, inject myself into the conversation. But when I heard that the guy collected rhino art, I couldn't hold back. And I said, wait a minute, is your name Keith? And he turns to me and goes, holy shit, are you Stingray? And I was like, yeah, oh my God. So to give some context, sometime last year, I was checking out CAF, looking at new posts, and I saw a piece of art that was the Rhino from, the Spider-Man villain. I forget who the first one I saw was by, who the artist was, but I started looking, and the person that posted it had nothing but rhino drawings in his gallery. He's a rhino collector. And he had some really good ones. He had a David Finch one, and like now he's got a Jim Lee one, and a Jim Chung, just all really great renditions of Rhino, and by really talented artists. Like really, there's not a bad one in the bunch. He's got a Jesse Larnagan Rhino, which I was like, wow, just banger after banger of sketches or drawings of the Rhino. And, I'm a character collector. I'm the Stingray guy. So I'm like, wow, this guy's the Rhino guy. And so in my head, he became the Rhino guy. And I watched his gallery because game recognized game, right? So I just saw another awesome character collector who was clearly very passionate about the Rhino. And so I gave him a watch on his gallery, and it's exciting to see every new piece he posts. So it turns out that his name is Keith. That was Keith that was standing there talking to Tyler, and we just happened to run into each other there. And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. So I got to meet the Rhino guy in person at Heroes this weekend. And it was awesome. And so even better is back in February, leading up to OAX, Keith reached out to me via calf mail. And he said, hey, man, I know you don't know me. We just like each other's art, and I've seen some of your videos and so on. But, I know you're going to OAX. Is there any chance you could try to get a Rhino sketch from Walt Simonson for me? And I wrote him back and I said, that's a bit tall ask. I can try, but I make no promises, man. Like I don't know. And, he said, that's cool. I understand, appreciate it. And I went to the show, and I had every intention of at least making an attempt. But, I had my own game plan. I had my own agenda, and every day Walt's lines topped off immediately. Like people were waiting for him. He was the first place that people went. And, Walt was going around and marking numbers on people's thumbnails with a marker. It was an interesting way to do things. And the lines filled up and got capped super quick. And I just didn't see any way outside of getting up and beelining to Walt's table first thing. I didn't see any way to get this sketch. And so after the show, I reached back out to Keith and I said, hey, man, it just wasn't in the cards, man. I'm sorry. And he was like, hey, I get it. It's cool. At least, you tried, and that's awesome, man. You didn't have to do that. And I was like, well, I feel kind of bad because I, came up empty, but, it is what it is. Well, at HeroesCon, Keith told me, well, you know what? I waited in line for 4 hours, but I got my Walt Simonson sketch, and he showed me his Walt Simonson Rhino sketch. And I was like, fuck yes. I was super happy that he got that Walt Simonson sketch that he was after. And it was awesome to meet him in person and to be able to celebrate that win, knowing that was something that was important to him. So Keith, it was awesome meeting you at the show this weekend. Stay in touch, man. Feel free to reach out if you ever need anything or if you just want to shoot the shit. Character collectors unite, man. I can't wait to see you again at another show. Oh, and Saturday night, I just went to the art auction. There wasn't anything in the auction this year that really tripped my trigger. There's one piece that I kind of liked, but it quickly went higher than I was willing to go for it. But I got to hang out and talk to some people. I hung out with Morgan Herron a little bit at the auction. Andre, who's always a good time to talk to. Tyler was there. Carl was there. Bill was there. Sardo was there. A ton of people were there. So I was just kind of running around talking, had a couple of drinks, bid on a few things, didn't win anything. But you know what? It was still a good time. And those were the highlights of the show for me. A lot of really cool, just social stuff. Getting to make new friends. Getting to meet people in person that I had been conversing with online, getting to meet someone whose collection I recognize and now being able to have a face to associate with it. It's always a cool thing. So now let's talk about the pickups that I had at the show. So first of all, I had a pair of pieces of art that were brought to me by the crusading angel of comic art himself, Bill Cox. One of these is a mystery sketch that I got shipped to Bill that, normally he would have shipped to me, but he knew he would be seeing me at HeroesCon. So he brought me this mystery sketch. Now, and I will say, I got 2 mystery sketches this year. The other one is in the mail. It's on the way. This one is like the mystery sketch jackpot, right? Mystery sketches, for anybody that doesn't know, Twice a year during the Comic Art Live event put on by CAF, they do mystery sketches for like 6 weeks leading up to Comic Art Live. For $200 plus shipping, you can get a 9x12. It's probably going to be a black and white sketch, like kind of like a con sketch kind of thing, right? You know, pencils and inks. But sometimes you luck out and you get a full colored Mannix piece, or you get a fully painted piece by some other audacious and awesome artist. So I kind of hit the lottery and I got this full color piece here. This is really cool. This is by Carlos Barocelli. He's an Argentinian artist that is part of the In Rizzo Studios. So he is repped by Nicolas Rizzo, the son of Eduardo Rizzo, who's also represented by his son. This one, my prompt for this one, this is Gustav from Clair Obscur Expedition 33, a game that I put a great many hours into last year and that beat me up emotionally. It's might be one of my top 10 games of all time. I don't know. It's such a good game. And I decided this year that I wanted to do something a little bit different with mystery sketches and get some video game characters. And so this one is Gustav, and I got another Expedition 33 character for my other mystery sketch that is still on the way. Anyway, I was blown away. I actually saw this. Bill did a live stream where he did a mystery sketch unboxing. He gets the bulk of them come to him, which he has to open up and then repackage and send out to the people that they're going to. So yeah, basically this is one of those ones where I won the mystery sketch lottery, and it's just really awesome. And I'm now a big fan of Carlos Barocelli. Now, the next piece that I got is a piece that I purchased during the most recent Comic Art Live from Bill. So since he knew he was going to see me at Heroes, he decided to bring this to me. If you guys don't already know, Bill is my hitch dealer. So this is another page from Redcoat. This is issue number 10, page 11. And this is from the issue where Simon Pure meets Annie Oakley. This whole issue was really good. There's a lot of great pages in it. And if I haven't said it enough, Redcoat is easily one of my favorite ongoing titles right now. Every issue is great. The art is fantastic. I love that it's kind of an action adventure book, but it kind of bounces around from genre to genre. It bounces around in time. And Hitch is just on fire with this book. You can tell that he's having fun with it. And this page in particular is just such a great page. That top panel, all the detail in it, from the cards being thrown into the air, the light and shadow on the guy in the foreground there, all of the crowd scene going on in the background with all the buildings and stuff. Just a really awesome image. And then you get that middle panel, that thin panel of the two of them firing their rifles at the cards. And then the last four panels really sell this page for me. The mirrored images of the bullet holes in the center of the aces, and then the two panels of them, the facial expressions there, the acting are just primo. I mean, they're both impressed by one another, maybe even a little impressed by themselves, but they're also very smitten. And such a great page from such a great book. I love it. So thank you, Bill, for bringing both of those to me at Heroes. Now, this year, I only had 2 commissions that I was picking up. The first of which is this awesome Stingray piece by Raymar Brunson. Raymar is a up-and-coming young creator who is working with Cosmic Lion Productions. He has a comic. He's got several comics over there, but one that I actually picked up the issues for this time around is Ghost Man. So we have the original Ghost Man, we have Ghost Man, Flesh and Bullets, and we have this really big issue. I like the format on this one, square bound and all that. Ghost Man Haunts Again, and Raymar was kind enough to sign all of those for me. I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I very much look forward to it. If you're interested in getting some Ghost Man comics, go to CosmicLionProductions.com and you can get some of those and a bunch of other cool comics. And if you want to get a commission like this awesome one that I got from Raymar, you can go check out his page on Panel Punk Comics or Comic Art, one of the two. I'll put the link in there so you guys will have it. But that's how you'd commission him or buy some original art. This Stingray piece he did for me is awesome. I love the stark, high contrast, black and white nature of it. I like the simple shapes of the coral and whatnot in the background. And I think it's just a powerful, heroic image of Stingray. It's really solid, excellent rendering. It's a great addition to the collection. So thank you, Raymar, for that. Can't wait to read the books. The next piece Now this one is interesting. This is by an artist named Joseph Karg. I met him last year at HeroesCon, and he was really cool. He thought I was an artist at first, and I was like, no, I'm just a collector. He's like, oh, well, what do you collect? And I started telling him about Stingray. And every time I answered a question, he seemed more interested in hearing my story and what I had to say and how I got into all of this. And so we had a really good conversation. And then at one point, I said, well, I have a few of my commissions on me. I always have portfolios with me at these cons. Would you like to see them? And he said, yeah. And he was super impressed with the pieces that I showed him. I said, well, do you want to do one? He was like, yeah, that would be cool. And so, I told him about my whole Stingray meats concept, and he seemed really into that. He talked about it from the perspective of seeing the art that I already had and talking about how it was going to be a challenge because, he wanted to live up to the rest of the collection. So he was going to have to really think about it and how to, do the piece and make it interesting and make it stand out. And I think he definitely succeeded in that way. So anyway, a few weeks after Heroes, he reached out to me and we kind of talked about it. And I presented him with my list of potential characters for Stingray to meet. He came back and said that he had done a commission for HeroesCon last year for a guy that was Moby Dick. And when he saw Moby Dick on my list, he thought that would be fun because he had done a lot of research to do that other commission. And he felt like he still had a lot to say about Moby Dick. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. I was waiting to see who would pick that one. I was very intrigued by it. And this is what he came up with, which he told me was weird even for him. Now this one, I tried scanning this one, and the scan just couldn't pick up the fluorescent colors, the hot pinks and some of the bright oranges that are in this. So I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna have to photograph this one so it shows up right, I think. This one's crazy, man. And it's funny because like, if you were to just look at this, I showed it to several people at Heroes this weekend, and they looked at it and they're like, oh, that's really cool, man. Oh man, look at that. Look at the colors. That's really pretty. And then I was like, so this is Stingray meets Moby Dick. And they went, oh, like, I don't think you even realize that this is the whale and the eye, until you get told. But I think this is really, really cool. This is nothing like what I was expecting, but that's okay. That's part of the reason I like commissioning people is I like surprises when it's art, I just think this is such a cool piece. The colors are outstanding. The kind of Art Nouveau kind of take on Moby Dick there, the close up, leaving it, it's just the eye. Like that could almost be a third eye. I don't know what's going on here, but it has a very like ethereal, very kind of almost mystic quality to it. Like, is this the sun and that's the moon, or is that, what's going on there? Those birds are kind of weird looking. I don't know, man, but I love this and the colors. And one of my favorite parts, and I don't know why, it kind of stands out to me though, like Stingray's feet are right there, but then there's like this bleed off into the water. And then with the cape and everything, like, is this a dream? Is this, like, what's going on? I don't know, but I love it. And this is the kind of piece that I can sit and stare at for a while and just try to figure out, what it is, beyond the obvious, right? That piece is super awesome. I really like it. I'm very happy with it. Joe did a really great job. I also picked up from Joe at the show, he did a Kickstarter earlier in the year for a comics anthology called I Feel Doomed. Over 40 creators showcasing their stories and illustrations inspired by the current chaotic state of the world around us, all contained in one giant anthology. This is I Feel Doomed. So he put out on social media that if you're going to be at HeroesCon, you could come pick up a copy of this rather than wait to have it shipped. I'm sure he was happy to unload these and not have to pack them up. He even did an awesome little quickie Stingray sketch in the cover on the inside there. I haven't had a chance to really dig into this, but this is kind of a group of artists, many young and upcoming artists who are kind of sharing their feelings on the state of the world today. So that's going to be really interesting to read. I can't wait. And in case anybody's wondering, go check out Joseph Karg on social media, Karg. Check out his Instagram. He showed me some of the other commissions he had been working on for people. I saw some other stuff he was doing. He also has done a number of cards for Marvel Snap, and he was selling some of the art at HeroesCon. Just black and white line drawings that are more traditional superhero art than this. And if you've ever played Marvel Snap, he did a number of cards from the base set, so you've probably seen his art whether you know it or not. So go check him out, maybe hit him up and get a commission because he's awesome. Those are the commissions that I got. Now, I got a few gifts at HeroesCon. I can't go to a show without getting gifts, it seems, anymore. Not that I'm complaining. So first off, we have this awesome kind of geometric experimentation here by Michael Benham. I met Michael for the first time at OAX last year. He did a few of these that he was giving out to people at the show. He did an awesome Cyclops with a kind of old-timey mustache that was kind of humorous that he gave to Bill. So he said he was just having fun, and I thought this was a cool little, experimentation with shapes that's just a lot of fun. Next up, I roomed once again with my pal Tom McDonald from Chicago, and Tom was there with an artist friend of his, Rich Bernardovich. They met last year, I think, and they became fast friends because of a mutual love of George Perez. And Rich is an artist, and Tom got him to do a cool little stingray for me. He has this kind of animated style, I guess you could say. It's not quite chibi, but it's almost in that vein. I don't know, but it's cute, right? It's kind of cool. And so Tom got Rich to do this for me, and I think he must have done it. Like, Rich joined us at dinner on Saturday night. And he had a lot of stories to tell. He knew George Perez for a number of years. He's also an actor. He's quite the raconteur. So he had a lot of stories to share. Very entertaining. Nice to meet him, and an awesome little rendition of Stingray there. So thanks to Tom for getting Rich to do this, and thanks to Rich for making it. This next one, Ed Harris, who was awesome in The Truman Show, or Appaloosa, or Apollo 13, or Westworld. Take your pick. Ed has been telling me for months about an artist friend of his by the name of Ryan Quackenbush. I checked out Ryan on Instagram. I have a comic of his that somebody gave me. Seems like a really great artist. I just, it's finding time and money to commission people and all that. It's just, it's hard to fit them all in. Well, it turned out that Ryan was a guest at HeroesCon this year, and Ed was there kind of helping him run his table. And so Ed led me to Ryan's table at one point to introduce me. And as I was flipping through Ryan's portfolio of art, he said, hey, Ryan, do you got anything in there that Newell might be interested in? And Ryan produced this. And I'm super impressed by this. This is awesome. It's hard to tell in the picture, but like the spray here, the foam is like a separate piece of paper that's kind of like glued on, and you can kind of see it's raised. It's coming off a little bit, right? Like it's like there's multiple layers here. Each of these black bars looks like it was just ripped out of a piece of paper and then colored in a little bit. I think the wings are on the larger piece of paper, but there's like a cutout there. So like Stingray's torso with the right arm and I think head are a piece of paper, and then the left arm is a different piece of paper. And then just there's all these elements, and there's like lots of dots on here. It's not Zipatone. It looks like it must have been like a roller or something. Yeah, lots of splatter, lots of paint, it looks like he came in on the face and was coloring in with just like a red pen or pencil. And then there's like white marker or paint up there. Like you can see the brush strokes. Like I looked at this and I looked at Ryan, I said, is this, like I was trying to understand from the perspective of like medium, like what I was looking at. And I said to Ryan, I was like, is this mixed media? And he kind of laughed and said, yeah, let's go with that. So I love the graphic nature of this. I love that this looks like it could have been like a graffiti mural somewhere on the side of a building. This could be like a punk or alt music album cover. Like this could be like a Stingray propaganda poster even. I don't know, man, but this is super cool, and I like this one a lot. And I thanked Ed at the show, and he said, oh, this is all this guy. So thank you, Ed. And thank you to Ryan for this awesome Stingray art. This one is really cool, and I think is going to stand out in the collection because it's just awesome. Now, there was one other piece that I was going to get at the show that was gifted to me. My good friend Carl Choi took me to meet an artist that he is working with for an upcoming comic from 24/7 Comics. The artist's name is Anderson Carmen, and we talked a little bit about the upcoming book. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but it's a futuristic baseball-themed comic. I'm not a baseball guy, but the comic sounded fun, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. And Carl said, hey, I want you to draw Stingray for this guy. And Anderson said, yeah, sure. And So the thing is that was on Saturday. And I wasn't planning on staying at the show too long on Sunday because I had to drive home. And I stopped off to see Anderson around 11:30 in the morning on Sunday, and it looked like he had just literally was putting the first few lines on the page. So I said, hey man, I kind of want to get out of here. I've got a bit of a drive ahead of me. Would it be possible for you to mail this to me? And he said, yeah. I was like, I'll cover shipping and or whatever. And he's like, okay, yeah, cool. I was like, dude, and no rush, take your time. And that's when he said, oh, cool. Well, then that'll give me some time to put some more pizzazz on it. I said, love to hear it. So thank you, Carl, for commissioning Anderson, but I don't have it yet. But when it shows up, I'll probably end up doing an art unboxing. Yay, content. I'm looking forward to it because the stuff that he had there at the show looked really awesome. One of the things that he was doing is he had some prints of art that he had done where he had taken some popular culture characters like Batman, Darth Vader, etc., and turned them into baseball players. So that was kind of cool. It's an interesting, and his booth was even done up. He had some chain link fence to make it look like a batting cage. So very targeted like display and like this is what I do. And I just thought that was really interesting and I liked it. And it's one of those things where they had Anderson way off in the far reaches, off to almost the far edge of toward the back of Artist Alley. And I might have walked by there at one point. And, I don't know if I would have ever stopped to talk to him though. Not for any reason in particular, just there's so much to see and do at Heroes. There's only so much time in the day. But Carl took me over there and now I've been introduced to another awesome new artist who is going to be a part of the Stingray collection sooner rather than later. So really, really awesome. So thank you to everybody who gifted me something or commissioned something on my behalf. I really appreciate it. It's one of the things that makes this community and being an art collector really awesome. And so the last thing I want to do real quick is I showed you some of the comics I picked up. I got the I Feel Doomed collection from Joseph. I got Brunson's Ghost Man books here. Once again, looking forward to reading those. I did pick up a pretty good stack of other comics here. We have the Panda, where's the other one? Panda Delivery Service by Jesse Lonergan. I was able to pick those up from him. These typically have been available on Power Pulp Comics website for a little while, but the last I checked, they were out of stock. So I saw that Jesse had these when I was there, and I decided to go ahead and pick them up. You can see he did a little Panda sketch on that one, and I think this one, oh yeah, he did it inside on the first page. So that's awesome. Some more Cosmic Alliance stuff that I picked up. This is Times Like These. This is another book similar to I Feel Doomed, where a bunch of folks from Cosmic Alliance got together and created some comics about their feelings on the way the world is going right now. And as you can see, the back cover is a guy sitting in a seat eating popcorn watching an explosion happen. So I think this will make a nice companion piece to I Feel Doomed. Then we have some books by Marty Keene. I picked up one. I decided to try one of his bootleg comics, The Martin Man. It's Marten. It's his take on like a bootleg version of Wolverine. He had the 3 parts to Punk Mop and Slim Top Bop. These were 3 books that he did with Jonathan Marks Baravecchia. So I love both of their work. So this is going to be an interesting piece. Oh, yeah. This is like kind of Marty's gritty comic stuff paired with Jonathan's painted art. So this is going to be really fun to read. And I also got Feral Star #2, which is the 3rd issue in the series after 0 and 1. I already had 0 and 1. I got a commission from John Burkett last year, and I asked him if he could send those along with me. This is the newest issue of Feral Star that John, I think, was debuting at Heroes this year. This is the front cover. I don't know who this character is, but he's crazy looking, and I can't wait to find out more. And this is the back cover is a watercolor piece. John has been working on his watercolors. He even had a whole book of watercolors that he had been doing to debut at the show. Thanks to John for this one. I'm looking forward to reading that and getting caught up on the world of Feral Star. And one last thing, this was also a gift. I that one got lost in the stack. So in addition to this Ryan Quackenbush art, Ed also gave me this book, Nothing Can Stop Me Now, Stories Inspired by the Songs of Nine Inch Nails. Ed apparently had a few comp copies of this laying around because he wrote a story that appears in this book. And one of the other stories, not the one Ed wrote, but there's a different one that has art by Ryan Quackenbush. 2 cool people that I know now are involved in this. It's art and comics based around Nine Inch Nails songs. So this is not something I would have read on my own, but I'm interested to see what it is. You know, this pig-faced man with the ball gag in his mouth on the cover makes me feel real safe about reading that in public. That's the haul, man. That's the haul. That's all the comics, all the art that I picked up, and all of the fun adventures. There's probably those are the highlights. I think there was some more fun stuff. I mean, getting to hang out with all of the CAF crew. You know, we went to the public house a couple of times. I had dinner with Sardo and Tom on Thursday night. You know, just hanging out and seeing everybody, meeting new people, hanging out with old friends. A lot of the people that I see at these conventions, I only get to see a couple of times a year at conventions. So I try to make the most of it. I try to see as many people as I can. And Heroes, like I said, it's always a good time. It's one of my favorite shows. So if you haven't been before, go check it out. Even if you're coming from as far away like the West Coast, it's worth it. Trust me. I know a guy that comes in from El Salvador. So if you can't make it from the West Coast, come on. Anyway, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video.